to the Hookup On Music with your host, Tony Bird.
Hello, everyone out there, and welcome to the Hookup On Music. We are trying some things, trying some gadgets out here live. So please bear with us if anything goes awry. But if not, thank you for listening, no matter where you are listening to the show at. We appreciate it. Got a lot to get to today. What we like to do is put together like a set list before. Today's set list has about 7-8 topics that we're going to try to get to into the 32 minute mark, and just kind of see where we go. But again, my name is Tony B, and I am your host tonight as we dig into a lot of different things. We're going to start with a little bit of music news. If you were not familiar with Terrence Reid, he was an amazing musician, songwriter known as Super Lungs. He sadly passed away August 4th. We got some other sad news to share a little bit later in the show, but this one just kind of graced us as we were putting this together. He had been a supporting act for the Rolling Stones, Cream, Jethro Tull, Fleetwood Mac. He also, which was crazy as I was doing some research, turned down the lead vocalist spots in Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple. That does not happen too often, but in the case of Terry Reid, it did happen, but he sadly passed away, and we're here to honor him tonight because, well, that's what we do here at the Hookup On Music. If you aren't familiar, is we like to take those that have been passed and we like to honor them and go back to his second studio album entitled Terry Reid. If you get some time, Super Lungs, My Supergirl, what a classic title that is. But also May Fly is on there, Rich Kid Blues, some really good stuff. So rest in peace to Terry Reid. Also, if you are a, if you were in the Chicagoland area, I don't know. I'm sure you had heard that Lollapalooza was in town for their latest edition, and didn't follow it too much, but I did happen to watch a couple of the live streams of, the great live stream of Cage the Elephant, who sadly, we talked about it in our last episode, episode 123, that sadly, Ozzy, his passing, we did kind of like a memorial for him, if you want to go back and check that out. But again, Cage the Elephant did a little bit of a memorial at Lollapalooza, and they did a cover of Changes, did a very good job with that. Definitely worth the, what's the word I'm looking for, the weight in gold in itself to check out. Korn also played in a set that was pretty dominant from my understanding, watching it on television. I wasn't there live, but upon reading some further articles, some people in the audience said that a lot of people, when it came time to get a little heavy, they just kind of sat and stared. I don't know. Maybe it was a long day. That is understandable. This festival goes on all the way, from the beginning of 12 all the way to 10:30. So if you're going from the beginning and rocking, by the time Korn hits the stage and plays Blind, it could be what's the word I'm looking for? A little exhausting for a little for some people, which is understandable. But if you have not yet headed on down to HBO Max, I know we talk about a lot of different music here. We've been leaning a little bit towards more of the rock and stuff. Billy Joel, classic artist who's been around since the early 70s. He even put out a heavy metal album called Attila. You should check out the album cover of that if you get a little bit of time. But or if you just check out the Billy Joel documentary, And So It Goes, you will definitely see a little bit deeper into what I'm talking about. Billy is, in all regards, just an excellent musician and an excellent songwriter, and that is all showcased here in this documentary. It starts from his beginnings all the way through to where he currently is, and he goes really in depth with a lot of that stuff. And honestly, what did I get out of a lot of it? A lot of new music that I never heard before that I'm starting to listen to a lot more. I had a lot of songs that I've always enjoyed by Billy Joel, about 6 or 7, but to expand that now to a lot more, even some of the slower stuff that maybe I only heard in a sketch on Curb Your Enthusiasm, which was hilarious. If you go back and check that out, if you know what I'm talking about. But Billy Joel, in himself, just put together this two-part documentary where he just honestly um, let it all hang out, which is what we like in our musical documentaries. We like a little bit of music, we like a little bit of soul, we like a little bit of just an overall approach to the business of what's really going on. And honestly, did a really good job. And like I said, if you get an opportunity, check that out. Learn a lot of different things that I did not know. He was married throughout the 70s. Here I think, Billy Joel writing some of these songs, he's a single man. No, he had a wife, he had a stepchild, which is a whole story if you go ahead and watch the documentary and dig into. Interesting, his relationship with Christine Brinkley, awesome musical videos in the 80s. Um, Even that River of Dreams, it's got a little bit of bop to it. But again, go ahead and check that out if you do happen to have HBO Max. It's definitely worth your time and your effort to check out. Which is exactly why I wanted to check it out. Every time they drop these documentaries on anything that is out or on, I happen to need to. I said that twice. Happen to need to check it out. I mean, I checked out a Bon Jovi documentary. I checked out a Bee Gees documentary. I checked out a Billy Joel documentary. Always looking to learn new stuff about any artist, and even artists that maybe weren't your favorites. That's maybe sometimes why I do it, is to try to expand that palette into something to say, you know what, I like it a little bit more than I thought I did. Just like right now, here we are, and we happen to bring ourselves into a little bit of a segment where we happen to dig into some of the new releases. Okay, well, we got a couple new releases here. A band that honestly I had never heard of, but they have piqued my interest, and the band is called Marfa. Very interesting band. Haven't dug in as deep as I would like to, but the song that has been crossing my path is a little bit of a track called Daisy. So if you happen to get an opportunity and listen to that, definitely let me know what you think. Um, Also, at the same time, Andrew, who's a fan of the show and always reaches out and lets me know new music, um, generally on the heavier side. But he decided to send me a new Freddie Gibbs album, not the album cover that you see here on the screen, but I always thought that album cover was really cool. But the one that he has shared with me is called Alfredo 2. It is a collaborative effort between the Alchemist and Freddie Gibbs, which is very interesting. If you're not familiar with where Freddie Gibbs is from, he's from Gary, Indiana, which is, if you're in Chicago, right next door to you. If you're in Northwest Indiana, then you are familiar. If you're pretty much anywhere, that you do know where Gary, Indiana is. But again, this new album, though, that he has dropped on me is very, very good. 47 minutes and 44 seconds. Definitely something that you could put on to definitely chill out to. 14 tracks, like I stated. I've listened through it all the way through once. Definitely going to do it again. Starts off with a track called 1995 and ends with a track called 1,000 Mountains. Honestly, I was very impressed because I like mixing it up. I mean, at the same time, when you're he also sends things to me like All That Remains. So my buddy, he's got a really awesome eclectic sense of music, which is always cool. And definitely trying to dig in a little bit more deeper into the Freddie Gibbs. This also serves as a sequel to their last Grammy nominated album. Alfredo obviously won, but it's good. Definitely has homage to a lot of classic hip hop if you are a fan of that genre. But again, you hearing different stuff and you're doing different stuff as a musician, and that is what's happening here. From all the reviews that I'm hearing, a lot of people enjoy it too. The Alchemist does obviously really good production. That's why Freddie is working with him. Um, Independent albums debuted at number one, which is pretty awesome. We like independent albums, but again, you're looking for something a little bit different, maybe even harken back to something 70s. I always like to say that, but definitely, or you could say it's something brand new and fresh for a time that seems to have a lot of familiarity in music. So check out that new Freddie Gibbs if you definitely get an opportunity to do that. It's definitely going to be worth it. Um, as I stated earlier, last week we had our, I don't know, a week or so, when the sad passing of Ozzy Osbourne. Obviously, at his passing, just decided to go neck deep into anything that was Ozzy. And honestly, I listened to the whole entire catalog after the show that we did, which honestly, it brought to light again, like many other artists in which you listen to their whole entire catalog, sides that you weren't as familiar with, or you didn't take the time to listen to as deeply or as much as you should. But in the case of Ozzy, he definitely is a really, really eclectic artist. I mean, you would have thought he was somebody who always just had heavy, 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 heavy. But in this regard, he had so many different kind of sounds, did so many different kind of things with his the sounds in which he was able to get the bands that he was able to get into. Some if you do the research, there was some things that happened in the early 80s. Some people did not get their songwriting credits. I believe later that they did, but still at the beginning, they everything should always go smoothly. What you do here is, after the passing, is awesome musicians like Zach Wild, who obviously got to start with Ozzy, be able to, share just how awesome it was to work with somebody who was, so important or so prolific in the music in which he did. Digging into osmosis is definitely been something that has been something that I've enjoyed lot recently. Lots and lots of good songs on osmosis. It honestly, to be fair, it's going to be our what I like to say is, like, we like to just go a little bit deeper. And this, we're gonna just spend a couple minutes here on osmosis, a couple tracks particular. If it's been a while and you haven't listened to a song like Perry Mason, definitely a unique song that I don't know if any other artist has a song that sounds like Perry Mason. See You on the Other Side. Very interesting that I've listened to the song a couple times. I'd say in the last 20 years, I haven't listened to it at all. So after his passing, listening to it a lot more lately, that's a good song. Didn't realize that the amazing Lemmy co-wrote this song, like he did with a couple other Ozzy songs, like "Mama, I'm Coming Home." That is the Lemmy Killmeister from the Motorhead, the amazing Motorhead. But there's some other good tracks on this album. I Just Want You, really awesome song. Thunder Underground. This was the one that I always kind of stuck out with me the most because it was heavy at the time period in which it came out. Geezer Butler co-wrote this one with Ozzy. So you get a little bit of that Black Sabbath bass, which is always really, really cool. My partner at the show, at the show, Yumper, he kept talking about the song Tomorrow. You want a song that rocks just as hard as Thunder Underground? That is definitely another one that I would definitely suggest and check out. But even some of the other ones like Denial, Old LA Tonight, all are a little bit different to Ozzy. Is it a little bit more of a laid back album than is some of the other ones heavy wise? Yeah. But that's why I was just talking about Ozzy a little bit, different introspection. So, hopefully, it's not too late to still always listen to a little bit of Ozzy. And so far since his passing, I've slowly had to wind it down because those first couple of days, you listen to a lot of Ozzy and you start to say to yourself, I got to start to let some other of this music in. And Ozzy would also appreciate that because he did a covers album. He does a track, a cover of a track called Fire. And honestly, I didn't know Jerry Cantrell played guitar on that album, but more on Ozzy at another time. But definitely take some time and listen to, a little bit of Ozzy, really. It's not going to do you any harm. Another band that I wanted to talk about really quickly here was Golden Earring. You may be familiar with Golden Earring um, because of songs like Radar Love or Twilight Zone. They're a Dutch band. Um, what's crazy is that they had a passing at the end of July, right around before Ozzy, and this was on my list before we actually were able to. We heard the passing of Ozzy, George Kooymans, who was guitarist and vocalist for the band. He actually sang lead on Twilight Zone. Um, Again, sadly passed away, which makes you dig a little bit deeper into some of Golden Earring's work. Um, I always bring up again what I've seen when I was a little bit younger in record collections. You could go to the Moonton album, which of course has Radar Love on it, but the second track on there, or first track, depends on if you have the original listing, the UK version, or you were able to pick up the US version. Radar Love, though, leads off, or Candy's Going Bad, a really excellent 6 minute and 12 minute track that you can hear his guitar work on to the high hilt. And definitely a band that doesn't get the praise. I mean, it does. They put out quite a lot of albums, and he was in the band up until, the end. Um, their 25th album came out in 2012, TNA, interesting album title. But again, it shows that, Barry Hay, who was the other lead singer in the band, did a little bit of guitar work. Definitely brought it to the point where the band itself could definitely get into a groove. So if you haven't listened to Golden Earring, or you've listened to them a lot and you got a lot more to share upon us, I would definitely love to hear it, because what I have heard of them, definitely enjoy it. It's always sad when these artists, they play until the end. They don't, some retire, which is always cool, but some play until the end. And, it sounds like, that's the way Golden Earring, is going. The members keep going and going and going, and then you say to yourself, could this be it? Could we take any more loss? Well, unfortunately not. We lost Chuck Mangione again. Was going to talk about this. This was something that was on the list to get into. Plus, he's always been on the list just to talk about in general. You talk about an awesome flugelhorn player. How often do you say to yourself, you know what? We got a good flugelhorn player here. But again, Chuck Mangione is one that definitely fits that bill. And you could obviously, tell just by the pictures, if you happen to go online, if you've never listened to him, he looks really, really cool. He, again, born in New York, Rochester. Some of these artists, you see them and you're kind of curious of their background. So like when you reading into like how he got his beginnings, he went to the Eastman School of Music in Rochester from 58 to 63, where he started. He then joined Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers, which is very cool and interesting. And then he, which was a chair after joining that, Freddie Hubert, Clifford Brown, Bill Hardman, Lee Morgan, all had incorporated, which I thought was pretty cool. Going through the 70s, you know what I mean? Definitely start digging in. His composition, Chase the Clouds Away, was used at the 76 Olympics in Montreal, Summer Olympics. And then Give It All You Got was the theme for the 80 Winter Olympics. So prolific. Prolific when you're getting these kind of gigs. In addition to that, I was kind of curious to figure out that he did a voice on King of the Hill. I guess I should have known that, but I did not, which has its return. King of the Hill is back. Billy Strings, in which we've talked about here on the show before. I got wind that he is doing the post credits, I believe, theme, beginning credits. He's involved. So definitely check out some Billy Strings there. And honestly, check Mangione. Check out some of his work too. You know what I mean? Go to the Land of Make Believe, 1973 album with an amazingly cool album cover. If you Legend of the One-Eyed Sailor, that's a cool album name. 7 minutes and 38 seconds. I mean, you go online, even if you were to dig onto YouTube or dig into anything and just start to hear, you get to hear some real serious jamming. And honestly, jamming is really what really it comes down. You know, he had a brother too, Gap Mangione, who's still alive, jammed with him on that album. We talk about it a lot. Seems like they were a cool family unit. But definitely Chuck is somebody who, you know, through the years, you know, he is definitely, you know, putting out albums, playing, honestly, 1979. Think of being in the audience at the Hollywood Bowl. That's another awesome place. Really, I've gotten to experience the Hollywood Bowl. Haven't experienced a lot of places, but that place is definitely worth checking out. But putting out a live album from there. Again, you know, if anybody can go back out and get to the flugelhorn again and really make it come back to life, that would be really cool. I wish I was young again, like 18. I'd start learning all these cool instruments. But then they tell me it doesn't really matter how old you are to start learning new cool stuff. And maybe I'll learn the flugelhorn. I'll put it right next to me and play, which is always really, really interesting to hear. Again, we're here for some new music and a band that has been around a little bit. They've been around since 2010, but Lord Huron, they just got a new album that they just came out with, which again, these albums just come and come and come. The Cosmic Selector, Volume 1. You always hear the Cosmic Selector and Part 1 or Volume 1 and immediately think, is there going to be a Volume 2? I don't know. But Long Lost, their last album, came out about 4 years ago, which was an excellent album. The Cosmic Selector, another good album. I mean, I've been digging these guys all the way since back in Strange Trails. These guys got something that they either go a couple different ways. They got some different descriptions. They like to, some people put them in the indie folk, but they got some songs that could bring a little bit of rock. But again, it depends on what you're looking for. The World Ender by Lord Huron is definitely one type of song that they do, which might be something you've be into, something a little bit more, oh man, something you'd hear almost like in Pulp Fiction, if that could describe it. But again, you go into the Vita Noir album, the next album, and you go to like Ancient Names Part 1. That's a 6 minute and 2 song. Rocking, really rocking and really bringing it. So we get to this new album, and honestly, it's pretty good. There's really Nothing I Need is a really good track off of it. Every album they do has got a couple songs that will put you what I would call a familiar groove with the band. They got a familiar groove, but then every album they like to go off and do something a little bit different. The Night We Met, not a bad track there. They do that with Phoebe Bridgers, which is interesting in its own way. But again, you know, if you go back to a lot of the bands in like the 60s and the 70s, they could have bands that bring the volume super, super high, and then they could have the songs that bring the volume super, super, super low, which I think makes for a good live experience because you get to mix all of that in when you see them. And then when the albums start piling up, you really get to mix and match what you want to do with that. And I think Lord Huron is an excellent example in when they do that. They're not what's the word I'm looking for? They're not going around and just coming up with different 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 the same thing, but you think it's different, but it's the same thing. We're not going to sit here and say who kind of might do that in musical world, but some people do. Um, some people definitely take that and run with it, but definitely check them out. There was a lot of definitelys. If you count how many definitelys there are and send that in to me, I'll make sure I send you something really cool from the Hookup on Music. It won't be this, but right next to me, which is actually really cool, is this AC/DC box set called Bonfire. Yesterday online, somebody was talking with me about mid '80s AC/DC album, Flick of the Switch, which has some really good rockers on there. Like I said, you can't close off any music. You need to take in all musics in all different forms, because if you don't take in all music in all different forms, what are you, doing here? A form of music that still I think is often underrated. Can't say that it's fairly rated, because I don't think as many people is listening to the blues, should, would, could listen to the blues. But again, they should, though. They should listen to more, listen to it, because this is a music that came all the way back from the 1860s. And honestly, you I don't know what it took. It's taken a lot through the years. You could sit there and say, oh, a lot of the bands that I've listened to and I've enjoyed has maybe kind of taken some of the sounds of the blues. They have. That's a fair statement. I think they also would admit it, considering that that's some of their influence. But that still doesn't mean that I like to go back and really respect the same thing. Like if you listen to Led Zeppelin, and Led Zeppelin took from the blues, then you should really go back and listen to the blues just as at least at the bare minimum, just as much as you listen to Led Zeppelin, because this is an inspirational music. Um, Different kinds of blues, which we can get into a lot in a different time, but the form itself just has come from jazz. It's come from, and it's spawned, like I said, rock and roll. I was reading a story the other day. We all know Elvis stole a lot of music. That's not a that's not a secret in any shape or form. But it's just a shame the way that when music is stolen, the original artist does not get the original effects of it. But then again, this is I could sit here with any music, even rap music. You could sit there with any of your favorite alternative bands. Everybody borrows. The question is though, when you're listening to something that's borrowed as the listener, are you yourself going to go back and take the time to really put in the work to listen to? As stated here, John Lee Hooker, excellent example. Excellent example. But that's the question. That's why taking the time to listen to music it's something that you have to dedicate yourself to. I mean, there is your general when you're listening to it as you're working out, or you're listening to it in passing. But some of this older music that I'm talking about right now definitely just takes sitting down on the couch and really kind of putting yourself into it and listening to it through the time periods of which it was created. The Chicago blues, the West Coast blues, all created for many different reasons. And then as things start to go, the term, the blues, when does that kind of start to fade out? Is it Stevie Ray Vaughan? I mean, is the blues still around strong? It's really a good question. I like to think it's strong in my own household, but when you go out to like a local bar and you're talking with people there, you're not going to really, and I could be very judgmental on this, you could be really not going to run into a lot of people who's deep in the blues. You know what I mean? They might know a little bit. They might have heard Buddy Guy. They might know he's got a place, but are they familiar with his music deep? Muddy Waters. You know what I mean? I'm just mentioning some of the basics, but you sit there and you really put the time into to listen to some of these things. Sun House, Ma Rainey, you know what I mean? This is definitely artists, Big Bull Brunzi, Blind Lemon Jeffries, just a lot. Johnson. One thing I always thought was really cool, which I will kind of leave on this note, is that to be able to have hung out with around 78, 79 with John Belushi, who supposedly had just one of the most amazing blues collections in the whole entire world, like just rare blues albums. Um, then sadly, when he got into punk, he started giving them away. But again, really cool how deep he and Dan Aykroyd too. Dan Aykroyd probably actually even deeper too, because he kind of brought Belushi into it. But again, we could talk about the blues forever. Thank you so much for joining me here on this special hookup on music. We're gonna be going live probably more often than not in the future. I was just trying to test it out today, and it seemed like it went smoothly. There was no hiccups. But again, I want to thank you so much for listening. I want to also thank you for following us here at the Hookup on Music. I also want to thank you for following us at the Sadistic Penguin Studios YouTube channel. A lot of cool stuff to follow there. Okay, if you have not, go and check out the most recent At the Show episode. There's a lot of awesome conversation in that show. A lot of hilarity of movies that were shared. We're going to be back next Friday, so please check out to that live at 8:15, 7:15. So please check out to that, but also check out next Saturday, my main man, my partner Yumper, and Cotton, who writes for our Sadistic Penguin Studios.com. And go there, please, and check out his awesome articles. But they're going to have a new show, which from what I gathered, from what I was explained, it's going to be like a comparison for like the remake versus the original. It's going to be really, really awesome. And anything else that we're putting out, please take care. I think the It's Getting Drafty should be coming back soon. If not, I'm going to get Magnificent Stan on here. He's going to do something because we miss him. So again, thank you so much for listening. And also, please, we got some really awesome stickers that we are giving. We are selling, which are really cool. A lot of cool work has been putting into them by my main man Yumper. So please check those out. I think I got it all. So please, everyone out there, thank you so much for joining in on us, and we will talk again soon. So have a good rest of your Friday, and well, see you next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Please look out for the audio version wherever you jam.